All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Beyond the Bottom Line, the new video podcast that takes you on a deep dive into the wonderful world of nonprofit leaders, professionals, and the folks behind the scenes who really get the job done. And, part of the reason I started this show is because there's a lot of great people in the nonprofit space that I've talked to over the years while we're building GiveSuite, and people who are users, people who are interested in our platform. And I find that everybody has a fun story to share, and nobody gives them the airtime they deserve. So we decided to start this show Beyond the Bottom Line to give you more of an insight onto what really goes on, the stories behind the people who started these organizations, who are running these organizations, and who really need to have a platform to share their stories. And it's fun, and everybody has a unique story. Everyone's got something to share, and I always walk away with a genuine sense of, wow, this is really cool. And I will preface, I create a lot of content. I've produced a lot of podcasts over the years, and this by far is my favorite show that I've done because I just love the stories that I hear. And today we're sitting down with a really cool person. Her and I connected. Her name is Karen Goetsch, and she is the executive director after we talked in the pre-show, her father actually started the organization, and she is now taking the mantle and really running the show at the organization called Be a Mentor. And they do some really cool stuff, and I'm not going to bore you with it because she can tell it better than I can. But before we dive in, this show is proudly sponsored by GiveSuite, the all-in-one platform for nonprofits to get everything you need done in your back office, front office, to be able to elevate and accelerate your organization without having to blink twice. If you want to learn more about GiveSuite, you can check out the link in the video notes on the YouTube channel and in the page that we provide for our guests. And this show will be popped up on our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bottom Line. So please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it helps get their message out and their stories out further to the world, as well as on all of our social channels, on all the GiveSuite social channels. So as I always say on my other show, nobody cares about me. Let's dive into the podcast. Welcome aboard, Karen. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I am doing very well today. I spent the weekend getting out into the world and not on my phone and social media. So I'm much more prepared for my work week than I am some weeks.
That's awesome. Way to go. Good for you. Well, I'm happy that we reconnected because we spoke before. We had a little pre-show conversation. I was just really blown away by what y'all were doing. And now I'm excited to have you on. So what's your deal?
Yeah, so I'm from Be a Mentor, which, as you said, was started by my father. He started it in 1992. I was just a kid. I think I was 8 at the time. And so he was really unimpressed with some of my teachers, which is what started things. But he had sold, right? It's all that personal story, right? So he had started a tech company, and he was in the process of selling it. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do next, but he knew that the education system wasn't preparing kids for real life. And so he got together with some other business people in the local community here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they started a it's ROP, which everybody locally knows what that means, and it's basically occupational training. But they started just one class that was high school students managing a desktop printing company. And so they were like printing flyers and brochures and calendars and things. And the amazing thing about it was that these were kids that maybe weren't doing well in their other classes. They weren't quite sure what they wanted to do. They didn't have any business or professional skills. And so they were bringing in outside professionals to coach and mentor these kids. And it was like a light bulb went off over these kids' heads. Like all of a sudden, there was somebody who had high expectations for them, was helping them to reach those goals, but letting them make the decisions and try things. And sometimes they failed, and sometimes they succeeded. And it was not just affecting how they were doing in this class, but how they were doing in the rest of their classes. So all of a sudden, they were thinking about, oh, maybe I do need to pass my math class, or actually read the English books because I want to go to school and get a business degree. And now I've got goals and things that are driving me past where I am right now. And so this group of business people with my dad got together and said, this mentoring thing really works. Maybe we could try doing that on purpose instead of just accidentally as part of this program. So together they formed Be a Mentor, which originally was called Students in Business, from this business class that they were running. And they started a mentoring program. And in the 90s, mentoring was just kind of starting to take off. Lots of people were talking about it, but there weren't a lot of organizations who had been doing it long term. So it was really kind of at this exciting point to bring mentoring into schools, into communities. And we have been matching caring, trusted adults one-on-one with youth in our community. Some of those kids need a lot of extra help, and some of them just need to have an adult who believes in them or somebody to talk to. And it really makes a huge difference in what they're able to accomplish and how they think about themselves and what kind of goals and lifelong dreams they put into place.
That's awesome. I mean, it's funny how you said that like this whole thing started like before mentoring became cool, and how your father just didn't was not happy with your teachers, which makes sense because the school system isn't always the greatest, and the more outside resources you have can better help you with things in life, and I think it's really cool. And so
there's been a ton of research that shows that having even one adult in your life who believes in you and values you and supports you can make the difference between a young person being stuck in generational poverty and a young person who's able to escape it and build a better life for themselves.
No, for sure. It's all psychological too. Like, I'm sure you guys have looked into this and researched this and seen this. So, like, it's like all psychological. Like, the more positivity you bring onto somebody, the more positive influence you bring onto a kid, especially, it helps really increase their motivation, really increases their drive to want to do stuff. And I think it's amazing. So, how did you get involved in this? I mean, it seems like you kind of inherited it, but like in a sense, but
in some ways, yeah.
How did you get involved, like, to the point where you're at now?
So, running businesses is something that my dad and I are both interested in. So he started his own business before he started a nonprofit, and I ran my own art business for many years. And so we often talk about business strategies and what's working or not working. And so even though I wasn't that involved in the mentoring organization for probably about 20 years. I mean, from going to college and then and before I became an employee here, we talked all the time about what was happening in the organization, about how he was trying to build partnerships and changing the dynamic of trying to do this on his own, that we're the mentoring organization and we're going to make all these matches, but thinking about how do we partner with other agencies and bring mentoring to the work that they're already doing and building these collaborative spaces. And so I felt like I was prepared already to step into the organization. And then when COVID hit, I didn't have very much work, and the organization was paying a marketing agency to do some work, and my dad said, I can pay you the same amount to do this, and you actually know something about our organization, and I don't have to do as much feeding you information. What if you did this for me? And I said, great, I don't have a whole lot else going on right now. But it meant that I was in the organization as we started being able to build back from COVID. So we got some dollars from the federal government because we had employees during the pandemic, and we were able to invest that in building out our programs. We have a 30-year history that we were able to bring to funders. So even though we didn't have a lot of programming that was happening during COVID, we were able to start things back up pretty quickly. And so I stepped into more of a leadership role as we started building those out. And I am so excited to be part of this. I have done a lot of different work in lots of different fields across my life. But one of the things that I've always really enjoyed is teaching, is working with young people. And then also being able to find creative solutions for things. And so I feel like this role takes little bits of pieces from lots of different things that I've done and really meshes them all together into something that's exciting and meaningful and allows me to connect more with my dad and the work that he's done, but also to see how much he's appreciated in the community. Like every time I go to an event, they go, "Oh, you're Bob's daughter. Oh my gosh, he's so great. He's done this and this for me." And I'm so excited to be able to take that mantle and to continue the work that he's doing. And really, I really do believe that mentoring is so powerful. I've had mentors in my life. I've seen the effect that it's had on other people, and it just means a lot to me to be a part of it.
That's awesome. And inadvertently, I'm sure you realize that, your dad, the conversations you had with your dad with business strategy and all these other things was his mentorship on you, which ultimately led you to do this, which sees the proof of concept. It really works.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
and I think it's very, very cool. And I'm sure, and like you said, like when you go out, the fact that the impact he's had on the community, I'm sure that's probably like even scratching the surface. Like, because people like that who are like super impactful, like you don't even know, like, and you probably know because he's your father, but like the depth of like what these people really do, is huge. So I think that's awesome. So you mentioned that when the pandemic hit, there was a big shift in certain things. So how did you guys like go from, I'm assuming you're probably a lot of in person, like in the schools, in like, like face to face. How did that impact your model and your organization? Especially when everyone's home and like losing their minds, trying to figure out what the hell to do. So how did you guys make that shift?
I mean, I think it was hard for everybody, and we were doing entirely in-person programming before the pandemic. One of the things that we pushed to, since we had all this downtime, we pushed to make our virtual platform a reality. It's something we've been working on for a couple of years, but it wasn't ready to go live yet. And so we did start a virtual mentoring program. We also helped a lot of our existing matches transition to meeting over Zoom, phone calls, and supporting that during COVID. But we lost a lot of funding, and so
Hmm.
the support we were able to do was minimal, and we had to scale back our activity. So we weren't making any new matches. We weren't doing any new youth coming on board. It was just support for our current matches and for the people that we've been working with for the past years, well, year or more at the time. So we were just coming to the end of a cycle.
Oh wow. And how did you guys like bounce back like when everything came through? Because I find it interesting, like like a lot of organizations who did in-person stuff had to really pivot to try to figure out how to go virtual. But virtual is
Mhm.
not the same, like because people like
No.
you're on your computer, but you have like 100 other tabs open, so you're not focused on that specific situation. So how did you guys like bounce back? But also, how did you guys keep your current people like focused and engaged when there were so many other distractions around on the screen?
Yeah. So with during lockdown, of course, all virtual, but we encouraged our mentors and mentees to start meeting outdoors as soon as it was safe to do so. And so, the meeting in parks and things like that was still viable. And so we did encourage our in-person matches to try and build those relationships back so that they were still meeting, they were still providing that support. I know that there was just a lot of loneliness and a lot of disconnect during that period for all of us, right? And so building that relationship back was really important. And then with our virtual mentoring platform, we're not trying to do the same kind of mentoring that we do in person for our virtual mentoring. We definitely focus on academics, and so a lot of our youth in those programs are a little bit older. They're able to get themselves on time to meetings and things.
Right.
And the hardest part was connecting to other organizations that would help them get access to computers, because some of these, I mean, lots of kids got access to computers during the pandemic that didn't have access to them beforehand, but they might have been sharing a computer
Yeah.
with five other family members, right?
Oh, I
Um,
know. I know the feeling.
yeah, so we were trying to navigate a lot of a lot of things, and finding solutions on an individual level and really connecting with other organizations who were already helping kids get access to the internet, already helping them get access to technology, and so that we could bring mentoring along behind the work that they were doing.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. And you mentioned this virtual mentoring platform. Does this mean that you guys can go outside of the Bay Area, or like you're
Yeah,
still trying to keep it like localized?
yeah, we do virtual mentoring for youth that are anywhere in the United States. And we accept mentors from anywhere in the United States to match with them too. So it's great, for example, somebody that's on the East Coast, when they're finishing up work, kids are getting out of school. So that's like a good time for for meeting, and it helps to align those kinds of uh, schedules. And so we're able to connect adults with young people who need some support, maybe with homework, maybe with talking about goals or plans for college. Sometimes we've got kids coming in that nobody in their family has gone to college, and they're looking for some support to talk through, like, how do I pick a college, and what's FAFSA, and
Mm.
how do I do things? So, is there a scholarship I can apply for?
That's really awesome. I mean, I think that's really cool, because the fact that you've gone from localized to like all over the country, technically, I
Yeah.
think that's probably like a huge accomplishment for you guys. Been doing this for like 30 years. It's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, we've been working in the state of California for most of that time. We also have some programming down in the LA area, but um, in the past couple of years, we've really expanded to be able to do this virtual mentoring program across the whole country.
That's really awesome. Do you find that you get a lot of, like, how many people do you guys have currently in your mentoring as the mentors and the mentees, like not just in California?
So for all of our programs, we have about 100 matches right now. So 100 mentors and mentees each.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That is really freaking cool. And it all runs like clockwork, probably,
Well, a
sort of.
lot of it, I wish it was a little bit more automated than it is. I will say there's a lot of hand holding, a lot of relationship building,
Mm.
and a lot of it is checking in people to people, because this work really is all about relationships. So it runs as much as clockwork can when it's built on the backs of
Right.
people making those connections and touching base and
But
uh, building relationships.
But I love how people are committed. Like, it seems like you have like these people, like, super, your mentors are super committed to the kids. And I think that's awesome, because like I know, like, you get a lot, you sometimes you get these programs where people are into it, but then like it's hard to commit and keep to the schedule and all sorts of things like that. And then at the end of the day, you don't mean to like drop the ball, but like the kid loses out. And so
Mhm.
it's like, I think it's really cool that these guys and these women and everybody who's part of your organization are like super committed to those.
Yeah, so our mentors are all volunteers, and we do ask them to commit to a year of working weekly with their mentee. It's easier to do online than it is in person, because traffic and all the driving and schedules and
Yeah,
everything. But online's a little easier. Just like Zoom meetings are easier to accomplish than in-person meetings these days. But
for sure.
we do a lot of screening, and so part of our interview process is checking for that consistency. Are you willing to step up and be there every single week, even if the kid's late, even if there's schedule changes? Because if we know that if a mentor agrees to be there for a year and bails out even at the 11-month mark, it's detrimental to the kids. If they say they're going to be there
For
for six
sure.
months and they're there for 6 months or more, fantastic.
Oh,
But
for
if they
sure.
say they're going to be there for this amount of time, and then even stop a little before that, it what it tells the kid is that another person is failing them, not showing up, and letting them down.
Well, I totally get you, because I can relate to that, because I'm part of like a youth organization here that I helped start with another friend of mine. We're a bunch of the people. And a bunch of and I see it, these kids, like a bunch of these kids gravitate towards me. I'm not doing anything like other than just being myself, but a bunch of these kids gravitate towards me. In a couple weeks I wasn't around because I had to deal with some personal stuff, and the kids who were really into like hanging out with me and talking to me, they didn't come. And then I ran into them in the street. They're like, "Hey, where were you, man?" I was like, "My bad." So I told them, I said, this month, like January, I said, I'm going to be there every week, and we're going to hang out. And like I show up every single week, and these guys are showing up and they're chilling with me and they're doing their thing. And like I see it, I totally see it,
Mhm.
like, because to them, it's the biggest thing. If you're not there, they're like, why the hell am I going to come?
Yeah.
But it really makes a difference. Like this past week, it was over the weekend, like these two kids who came specifically for me, they showed up and they're like, "Oh, I was like, I told you I'd be here." And I texted them also before. I'm like, "Yo, I'm coming through." And they're like, "Okay, great." And I see it, like the smiles on their faces, like when you show up, and
Mhm.
it really is majorly impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. We A couple other things we tell our mentors is that even when they think they're not making a difference, that they are. That they might not see it, they might not see that the things that they're saying, the fact that they're showing up over and over again, even when it's hard, all of that is making a big difference. These kids are soaking that up. They might not process it all right now. It might not be something that they realize is impactful today or tomorrow, but a week, a year, 10 years from now, they're going to look back and think, you know, my mentor told me this, and that really shaped the way that I thought about this. Or my mentor was there listening to me and helping me deal with this difficult thing, and I wasn't alone. And that helps me to be present for other people.
No, it's caring, sharing, loving, and supporting, and that's the key to it all. So in terms of your journey, so you went from like kind of being there with your dad, and then getting hired to do the marketing, because I get it. Most marketing agencies aren't, trust coming from a guy who runs a marketing agency. I get it. Most people, it's hard. So coming in and
Hmm.
running the marketing on it, and then now you're the executive director. So how does that feel? How does that, like, how your trajectory into this role? How does that feel for you, and how does that, like, all your experience, how has that helped you shape the way that you're running the organization from your experiences and your perspectives?
That's a really big question. So let me break it down. So the the trajectory through the organization, I started with marketing and had a small team that I was working with to do mentor recruitment. So learning all about our programs. And then I stepped up into managing our mentoring programs so that I was actually working directly with our program coordinators who were making the matches and working with youth, to stepping up into the operations director role. And then this last year, I was the deputy director with the goal of moving into the executive director role. And I've been working with the board for the last couple of years, knowing that this was part of succession planning, that my dad wanted to retire, and building the necessary relationships with the board so they felt comfortable moving me into this executive director role. That being said, the 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 things that I'm bringing to this role are a people first mentality, really thinking about what do my staff need so that they can do the best they can for the kids that we
Brilliant.
work with, and building more collaboration and cross organization work. So we're a pretty small team. We only have like 15 or 20 staff people, and we do a ton of different things. Not just mentoring, but also supporting other mentoring agencies and working with the schools to help them with parent volunteers that are coming in. So there's like a whole bunch of different things that we do, and we've got a small staff to do it. So sometimes that means wearing many hats and helping different people connect in different ways and skill share beyond just what their specific job title is.
No, that's brilliant. I mean, people first is the great best way to go, because if in understanding what your employees need in order to be successful and not micromanage them is the key to successful growth.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And,
Yep.
and
And there is unfortunately a lot of nonprofits that eat up and spit out employees that, get burnt
Yep.
out doing this kind of work. I don't want that. I want my employees to know that I've got their back, that they've got the support that they need, to deal with life in addition to their work.
Well, I think it's also because you come from the business world too. Like you understand that like you have to run this organization like a business, otherwise it's not gonna it's not gonna flow. And the fact that a lot of nonprofits do not see their organization as a business, they see it as a charity. So therefore, they have that like scarcity charity mindset where it's like everything's volunteers, blah blah blah, and you're like, like everyone's trying. You said it. You're running around with a couple different hats on, but you know what? You're able to balance the hats on your head and spin the plates because you understand how a business is supposed to run. So everyone's got to kind of overlap in certain regards, but focus on their core skill set.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
No, it's really cool. It's really, really amazing. And I always find, it interesting. The episodes that we've recorded so far, I've really seen the pattern with a lot of people that I've talked to is that you've all started off as volunteers or some capacity in the organization, and the trajectory has led you into the executive role. But those experiences have really shaped the way that you're running the organization and making sure it continues to grow and scale at a way that is viable.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we want to be able to grow, and a lot of that is funding. And the situation with the federal government in the United States right now makes funding really, puts us in an unusual place. And so we get a lot of funding from the federal government, and we're working to connect more to other funding sources so that we're not so dependent on it. And that's what's really ideally going to allow us to grow as an organization to do more.
But I think that's a smart strategy too, because like, why you want to be fully dependent on, like, I see this a lot of organizations that they're all like, a lot of people, unfortunately, are dependent on the government for everything, and they don't know how to think for themselves or think outside the box to be able to get creative in trying to build partnerships and do cause marketing and do different sponsorship opportunities. And then, they get hit with a snag and like, oh no, we have no money. But I think it's about strategic planning and aligning yourself with the right people in order to grow in that regard. And I think you got it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Again, it's comes from the business mindset, and as your mentor, your father, really put that in you, and you get it. So I think it makes a lot of sense. So as we wrap up this episode, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who's gone that similar trajectory of you, and is now in that executive seat and trying to figure out how to best run the organization from their experience and their perspectives?
Yeah. So one piece of advice, I'm sure there are lots of things, but I think one piece of advice is really focusing on relationship building. So checking in with staff, what do they need? What do your volunteers need? What do they already bring to the table? And how can you build the connections with the board and the community to really provide the resources that are necessary for the people in the organization to succeed?
Awesome. Makes sense to me. So how do we find you? How do our viewers get in touch with you? I mean, we're going to be putting this up. You're going to get your own page. It's going to be branded with all the information, and we'll be sharing that around. But what's the best way to find you, connect with you, schmooze with you, potentially become a mentor with you? Lay it all out.
Yeah, so if you go to our website, beamentor.org, that's spelled out beamentor.org, you can find all the information you need about our organization. If you want to become a mentor, we would love to have you. We post stuff on all the various social media, so even Blue Sky these days, but Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Feel free to look us up there. You'll find us. There's two Be a Mentors that exist in the world. One of them's in South Carolina, and one is in the Bay Area. But we'll be the one with this logo, the star logo here, if you're looking for us on social media.
Awesome. Awesome. We're going to put all your social handles into the write-up, as well as tag you with all that and it's going to be great. Karen, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and I look forward to sharing your episode to the world and giving people more interest in being able to connect with you. And I'm also going to put their donation link in there as well. So if you feel like you'd like to not just be a mentor, but be a partner, you can drop some change in the pushka for them. So Karen, it was a real pleasure having you on the show, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation and connecting with you further.
Thanks, Sean. It was great. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.